Your hosts, Landon and Jade, are a married couple of 17 years and counting, are here to give you a swift kick in the ass. There will be some tough love, but we are here to support you to the greatest life you can have. We will bring the sarcasm and humor. You just bring yourself. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Backroads to Us podcast. So we're going to talk about the 7-year itch. I'm sure all of you have heard about it. In any relationship, I think it can start either from when you're dating to when you're married. Either way, being in a relationship for 7 years and then you get what they call that itch. I don't know that I would say that that's a real thing or not. You get it from both perspectives. Some people say it's an old wives' tale, and then you get where psychologists say yes, it is a real thing. When I was looking it up, it actually says that divorces now are actually are peaking towards 4 or 5 years, and I kind of go more along with the fact of you can have that itch at any time. I don't think it matters if it's 1 year, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I think it can be any time at all. So what we want to talk about is 7 things not to do so you don't get that itch. And this is something that you can do, I think, through your whole entire marriage or relationship at any point. So let's talk. Let's see. So number 1, don't ask for honesty if you aren't ready for the answer. I think in relationships, we all want each other. We say, well, let's be honest about everything. And yes, we need the honesty. You need someone to tell you when you're doing things you're not supposed to or when you are doing really good. But I think a lot of people ask for honesty and they expect that other person to maybe be nice about it, about the honesty that they give. And I think there's a lot of times that people aren't ready for the honesty because I think they're expecting their spouse or partner to be nice about it, I guess is a good way, or give them that white lie. And I think it kind of shocks a lot of people when they say, yeah, I want honesty. I really want it. And then they give it to you and you don't like it. I think in our marriage, the honesty wasn't a problem. I think I was the person who wasn't ready, not necessarily maybe for the honesty too, but for the way it was given. But luckily enough, Landon is very honest and it helped keep me honest. In a lot of things. I don't know. Do you feel like honesty is the best policy crap? But
well, yeah, I mean, it is, but some people are asking for the honesty, but they really don't. I think deep down they don't want it. What they're wanting is an affirmation that they're doing everything correct. They don't want to hear they're doing something wrong. So when they actually hear that honest answer and it's not what they thought it was going to be, then they're offended. Because they're always of the impression that I'm doing everything right, and then like everything I'm doing in the relationship is right, and everything I'm doing, I'm supposed to be kept up on this pedestal. But when you give them that honest answer that's not what they're wanting, then sometimes they're offended because they have a different perception of what they think the honest answer is going to be. I mean, the 7-year itch thing, I'm on board with the wives' tale thing. I think people bring that on themselves because society and a lot of people, like you get close to it and like everybody you hear, oh, be careful for that 7-year itch. Be careful for this. You're getting close to this or whatever. Oh yeah, that 7-year itch caught him. Well, you're bringing that on yourself. You're letting that into your relationship that, oh, it's up onto that time frame. We're going to be having problems. And then people have problems. It's like, stop letting that into your life. Just have a relationship and a good relationship and stop letting those negative things into your life. I mean, the more negative you let into your life and the more that you think about it, that stuff comes true. Stop thinking that you're going to have a problem in 7 years. Stop thinking you're going to have a problem in 5 years. If you have a little problem, work it out and just have a good, healthy relationship instead of, oh, here it is. It's a 7-year itch and, we're probably going to have a bad problem and have a divorce. I think society brings that on and a lot of that stuff gets ingrained into you and you just let it happen instead of just not letting that into your life.
yeah, I agree that it's like you're asking for the problem to come to you when it's like you have this time frame of, okay, when I get to 7 years,
watch out, here it comes.
Here it comes. But like I said in the beginning, I don't believe that that's true. I think, like you said, I think you can bring it on at any time. And that's why with the honesty thing, I think sometimes when you ask for that honesty and you're not ready for it, that's kind of a red flag of why aren't you ready for the honesty?
Right. And then people use it as a way out too, because like,
Yes.
oh, we're having these problems. We're arguing all the time. Oh yeah, we've been married for 7 years or 5 years or whatever that time frame is, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we need to go to counseling or we need to do this or we're going to get divorced because we're not getting along. And it's that 7 years. So it's never going to get any better instead of just working it out. I don't understand that. I mean, every single relationship is going to have some sort of problem at some time.
Mm-hmm.
You will never not get around not having a problem. So you need to learn how to deal with it and make your relationship stronger.
Yep.
And like you said, the honesty thing, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that ask for it that they're not ready for what that answer is going to be because they have a different perception of what the honest answer is going to be. You come up and say, "Hey, am I doing a good job with this?" Or, well, I don't know. It could be any situation, and I tell you, no, I think you could do better because of this, or whatever I say, and you get offended because in your mind you thought you were doing good or you're doing good at this certain thing or the house cleaning say, or it could be a gym thing, or it could be like a mental thing that you're working on to be mentally stronger, and you think you're doing really good, and then all of a sudden I say something to the fact of, well, I think you could do better at this point or this, and all of a sudden you're like knocked down a notch because you were up on this little pedestal that, yes, I'm doing great. And then the honest answer is looking outside in, no, you're not doing any better. It's just in your head. And now it turns into a fight because you really weren't ready for that honest answer because you thought something different.
Yeah, and I think a big thing for us was the way that it was, the way the honesty was given. I had a really hard time because just like you're talking right now, it was very much, no, you're not doing good. I mean, and that's literally how you would
Well,
address it to
it's
me.
a
And
delivery. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't. I'm all happy. Oh yeah, I'm doing good. He's gonna affirm what I thought, and then I get no, like almost that look of like, are you serious? You really thought you were doing
Right.
good?
Because I
And
think when you ask for an honest answer, you don't run through in your head, okay, what happens if the honest answer is something I don't want to hear?
it's
And
almost
you're
like,
always
yeah,
wanting the positive answer. So before you ask for honesty, you need to be ready for the fact that what if the honest answer is not something you're wanting to hear and something that you're going to have to mentally deal with, that it's not a positive answer. And if it is, that's okay. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means let's, change the situation a little bit and let's fix whatever that is and move on. It doesn't mean you're a bad person because you got a bad answer or the situation wasn't going how you thought it was going. It's like, okay, let's keep improving and let's keep going on. It doesn't mean let's have a fight about it. Let's,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. A big thing I had to learn was for me when I sometimes I won't ask because for me sometimes I don't need that. I don't need to ask you am I doing good here because I can see what I've done. But on the other hand, if I really want to have a conversation with you, I have to let go of my ego because my ego is the thing that gets me mad. My ego tells me I'm doing good. I am whatever question I'm asking, I'm expecting Landon to give me the confirmation of yes. So what I have to do is drop my ego and be open to listening to the conversation of I want your honest feedback of yes or no or what's your input. And I really really had to work on that because it was so hard for me to basically like I said just be open enough to hear that yes you are doing something good or no it's not as good because if I didn't do good I felt like it was like a personal you were like personally attacking me when you weren't. I was asking you a question but I felt attacked just because I didn't want to feel or it wasn't the answer I wanted. And that's a whole other thing about fixing your mental stuff. So, like we said, if you want an honest answer, be ready for it. Don't use it as a fight. Don't do that. It's something you have to work on.
Well, you just
Honest.
got to be ready for it too, because it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that if you ask for an honest answer, it's going to be an answer that offends you or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a good thing,
Yeah.
but you just got to be ready for that just in case. What if it's not what I thought it was going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go on to number 2. Don't forget to celebrate the milestones. And the milestones, they can be birthdays, they can be anniversaries. They can be the fact that you set a goal and you accomplished it. They can be small. They can be large. They can be anything. But don't forget to celebrate them. I think we get so stuck in day to day, just trying to make it through. Sometimes you feel like you're just trying to survive and have enough time for everything in your life that you forget to take those milestones and celebrate them. I know some people don't like their birthdays or they don't really care about their anniversaries, but it's just another day to celebrate, let yourself relax, have a good time, because I think we're all wound up so tight. And when you do that in a relationship and you're wound up all the time and you don't take a minute to relax and just hang out, or, if you're celebrating your birthday or an anniversary and you just go out to dinner, it's not something crazy, but you took the moment to celebrate it with the person that you love. And it kind of helped you guys just breathe for a minute, I think, because we're all
Yeah,
busy.
let the struggles of life just behind. Just don't think about it for whether it's. I mean, it could just be for an hour, it could
Mm-hmm.
be for 2 hours, but that little bit of time that you're not thinking about whatever's going on in your life. I mean, it's good for you.
It is. And I always know every year on my birthday and on our anniversary, I will always get flowers. Without fail, I've always gotten them. And I think even though it's as simple as it is, and I mean, he could give me flowers all through the year, but there's just something about that consistency of always knowing that on those 2 days, I'm going to get flowers. And my husband thought about me. I'm already looking forward to the day. I don't need a lot, but flowers are nice to have. And I think just that little bit of celebration makes me feel good, which then makes me feel good towards Landon, and it makes me want to do nice things, and it just makes us in a good mood. And I, like you said, I think that just helps all the other shit just kind of go away for a little bit. So don't forget to do those little things, no matter what they are. Uh, I think it's a good thing to celebrate them. Don't forget them. I'm gonna say Landon hasn't yet. He almost did one time, but other than that, he has never ever forgotten. And I think in almost 18 years, that's a pretty good streak to have. So that's good. Number 3, let's talk about don't slack on helping with chores. I know that may seem kind of dumb to some, or it doesn't really seem like a lot, but chores, it's a way that you're helping your spouse. And I think we've talked about this in other podcasts about how if you're just having a really hard day and you come home and there's still so much to do at the house or help the kids or the dogs or whatever, it is nice to have that other person supporting and helping and not just sitting on the couch and saying, no, you got it. Oh, you can do it. There's so much in helping with chores that may seem little, but it's a huge support to the person. And I think that gets way overlooked because I know that I get grumpy if I feel like I'm doing everything on my own. If I feel like I have to take care of everything, whether that's true or not, but if I feel like it, then I get grumpy and then things go downhill from there.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, there are certain things that I think me and you individually do. That's like our chores. You tend to do the dishes. Like every weekend, I tend to do the laundry. Say I vacuum, you're dusting, whatever. But there's those aren't the only chores. And like you said, we've talked about before that marriage will never ever just be 50-50. There's going to be days where you come home and you're just not feeling it. So it's going to be a 70-30. I got to pick up a little bit of slack just to make your day go easier because you had a hard day. Some days it may work out that it's 50-50 and that's just the way it is. But our situation a little different. There are a lot of couples out there that both husband and wife both work, and that's just kind of the way of the world now. So that's where the sharing the chores and everything has to be a mutual thing. And some days the 50-50 doesn't work, and someone else has got to pick up some slack, and then the next day it's going to be vice versa. I mean, if you're a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home wife, then the majority of the housework ends up tending up to be on you because that's your job is to keep the house clean. The other person's out working. Well, with us, we both work, so we have to share the housework and stuff, and whether it's yard work or shoveling snow or whatever it is. So you can't put all that on one person and say, nope, I did my two things, the rest of it's yours, because that other person may just be having a bad day and they literally just need some help.
Doesn't it almost feel like a little act? It's like an act of kindness or an act of love when you do something so small as something that usually is, yes, we each have our own individual chores. We have grown to evolve that as we've been married long enough. We each kind of I don't even think we really talked about it, but we just kind of separated them. You want to do this, okay, you do this, and then every week we do it. But there are some weeks that maybe someone's got something to do, and so you pick up that little bit of slack, and you don't realize how helpful that is until you turn around to go do that, and it's done. And like I said, I think that gets overlooked a lot because it's a responsibility, yes, but I think
It's a little bit of a stress relief.
it is, and it's just the fact that you thought about it. I think it's just that point of you thought to be nice enough to do this extra step that usually I would do, but hey, I can do it for you. Let me do
Yeah.
it.
You're coming home from work or something, or I'm coming home from work and you're thinking about what you got to do for the next day to get ready for work. When you come home and that thing is done and you realize you don't have to do it, it's kind of like, oh, wow, I can actually sit down and relax for a minute before I got to go to bed to get up to work, So it's a big help.
Yeah, because imagine if you don't help out with the chores and one person is constantly doing it, whether or not you guys have talked about it. Imagine going through the years, if this person never says anything, or if they do say something and you don't change it, how much that can build up and how that can start to just fester inside of you until it wants to blow up because you just think, my gosh, I just do everything on my own. I never get any help. And then you feel this resentment towards your significant other because you feel so almost kind of alone in your responsibilities. You feel like you're the only one picking up the slack. That is a big thing that can start leading to resentment to get that itch no matter when it is. So it's just something so small we've talked about before can turn into something huge. So just kind of pay attention to those kind of things. Help with the chores. All right. Okay. Number 4, don't stop looking for joy and laughter. I know that's kind of hard to do. Sometimes everyone says, well, my days are really stressful. The years are stressful. I don't know. But the fact is, if you're never looking for something to make you happy, something to laugh about, if every single one of your days is dark and gloomy and you bring your spouse down, you bring your household down, that is eventually going to lead to a lot of bullshit that person cannot handle anymore. Always being negative, always talking bad, that is going to eat away at someone at their core, you and the other person you're affecting. So I think every single day you have to look for something to be happy about, to be joyful about. Some days aren't going to be easy. We all know that. And you may go through a week of things not being easy. But you have to consciously take that effort, because if I ever have a moment where I don't feel good, I have a hard time finding something to be happy about, it's not a consistent thing. So this can do 2 things. One, if I'm always looking for joy and happiness, if I am having a bad day, it's pretty easy to tell. You can tell if I'm not having a good day. But on the other hand, too, it's something in the fact that you can see that effect changes so much that, like I said, it's easy for Landon to pay attention to. But then it's also, since I'm always looking for it, it's a little bit easier to bounce out of it the next time that I don't feel that way. And it doesn't make it such a negative thing all the time. And Landon can give me the space I need. Maybe she's just having a bad day. Give her the night. She'll be fine the next day. And usually I can bounce out of it. But if you're consistently like that, it's like digging out of a black hole. You're never coming out of it, it feels like. So that can be really affecting your relationship if you're not consciously paying attention to those kind of things. I know when we were first married, I was probably a little bit more on the negative, a little bit more. I'd get depressed pretty much easier. Once how I've fixed that and whatnot, do you see the difference? Do you feel a difference in our marriage that since I've
Yeah, I mean,
worked on it?
I think it was bigger when we were dating, but the depression side, or just that low and gloomy kind of attitude it's not there much anymore. I mean, having a bad day, everybody's going to have a bad day. That just happens. I mean, it's just life. Something didn't go your way at work or whatever, bad news. So, finding something to laugh about and be happy about, and something that makes you happy, whether, you have pets, you have a TV show you like to look at or watch, and you got jokes, or that one thing that whatever your spouse does always makes you smile, whether you're in a bad mood or not. Sometimes it makes you smile, but then it makes you mad that you're smiling because you're in a bad mood. I mean, it takes that edge off a little bit, just because you do have, all of a sudden, there's that other emotion that just forcibly comes out, makes you smile, makes you happy. So no matter what happens, it forces you to smile a little bit or be happy because your body just reacts to it. I mean, that's pretty important because, yeah, you get into that low and gloomy, it's contagious, and you let that sit in and it doesn't go away. You can't have it happen.
You're asking for problems as
Yeah.
soon as you do that. All right, so number 5, don't stop trying to attract your partner. This is a big one, and we talk about it all the time, and we're talking about it again. But the fact is, if you're not trying to attract your partner, then you're stagnant. If you're not continually trying to, and I'm not just saying in looks, I am saying in your personality and the things you do towards them, the kindness you show them, and yes, your looks, taking care of yourself. But if you're not continually trying to attract your partner, then you're going to repel them eventually. I mean, it's coming. It's just going to be that. If you just don't intentionally try, and I know it's easy to just get into a groove. Everyone goes through the honeymoon phase, and then you kind of have that transition phase of figuring out how to live together and how to be with this person all the time. And then you kind of like hit a plateau, and I think that's where that 7-year itch comes into, is because at that point you kind of go on autopilot, and you just say, well, my husband or my wife, you don't really think about their wants or their needs because they're there. I mean, well, they have to. They have to accept it because we're married, or they're used to it because we're married, or whatever excuse you want to give. It's really easy to get stuck on that and then never change. And you may say, well, my partner's never said anything, so it's okay. It doesn't bother him at all. But have you actually asked him? Have you actually tried to do something the other way and see how they'd react? No, I think a lot of us, it's easy. It's comfortable just not to try. But yeah, if you don't try to attract your partner, then I feel like you're doing a disservice, and it'll show. Because I want my husband to always be attracted to me. I want him to, I want him to think I'm hot. I want him to like my body. I want him to laugh at the jokes I tell. I want us to connect emotionally. And when we don't, you can usually tell. We can feel it. And luckily enough, after so long, one or both of us, once we feel that, we make a shift. No matter what it is, whether it's you or me, we tend to feel that vibe, and we make whatever shift we need to without even really having to talk about it. And that's been very easy, but it takes time to figure it out, and for us to be self-aware enough to want to make the change.
Yeah, I mean, the attraction thing, like you said, could be physical or whatever, but I think the biggest part of that is the attraction of dating. You can't ever stop dating your partner. That phase can't go away. Yeah, the whole thing you did when you were dating, before you were married or before you were in a relationship, those things got to stay. You gotta keep them in your life. Going down a date, doing whatever, the little things you would do to attract your partner when you were dating, don't let it fade. Yeah, the number one thing that most people find in a partner is looks first off. That's why you go up and talk to somebody, is because, oh, that person, you're attracted to that person physically, because you could talk to that person and then all of a sudden their personality ruins it. So, I mean, don't let your looks fade either. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. I mean, number one is just be healthy. And we go to the gym a lot because we want to stay in shape, and that's part of an attraction as well. But, we try to have at least a date type thing every weekend, whether it's going to lunch and going and hanging out on the weekend, whatever. But you can't let that little stuff go, because when it does, like you said, it turns into that stagnant, well, you're just here. And then when you do that, it's like you just turn into roommates. Mm-hmm. So you don't want that roommate thing, because, I mean, you can move and have a roommate anywhere. Like, if you want to be married and have a healthy relationship, keep dating that entire time and making that other person feel like they're wanted, or that you want to be with that person. And hopefully you could keep that. Because like I said, it's not easy all the time. No. And it's something you have to try for, and it's something you have to work at. But if you're able to work at it, things work, and they flow better. So, like, none of this stuff is easy, but it's something that you're going to have to challenge yourself and your partner to do together. And maybe, little hints here and there that, hey, we're not doing this. Like, hey, if I come up to you and say something, it's not, hey, you're not doing this for me. It's, hey, we're not doing our date thing. We need to go somewhere Saturday, or for lunch, or go out to eat or something. So it's a we're not doing this, not you. Like, you don't want to just point that one person out and say all these things you're not doing. It's, hey, we are not doing this as a couple. we need to be better at it. And then maybe that's a wake up call that you need to improve. I need to improve, but it's not just always you or always me. It's we're doing this together.
Well, and on that, be willing to change and grow with those things, because some of the things that you used to do when you were dating, you can't do anymore.
Oh
You
yeah.
can't.
I mean,
You
there's
can't go
things. I
do
mean, you
those
got,
things.
I don't know, life changes. I mean, most
Yeah.
people have kids. I mean, so there's a lot of things that come into play there where, some things that you did when you're dating just aren't doable. But I mean, there are still little things you can do to keep that alive.
There is, and I think it gets overlooked. Of try new things. Try new things, like you said, emotionally. Try new things physically. Just try different stuff, and I think that'll help pull you out of the stagnant phase. You're always going to have those things that you've done for your whole life, but try some new stuff, and that might help rekindle a little bit. Learn something, because maybe you guys are doing the same thing over and over, and it's just not working anymore. So talk to your partner, be open about it, be willing to hear, because maybe you're happy with it, but they're not. So you need to be willing to hear both sides and have that conversation and feel like it. Because we're going into number 6, which is don't ignore your partner's needs. So if your partner is telling you that, hey, I don't feel loved right now, or I don't feel like you're sexually attracted to me, or I don't feel like you listen when I talk, if you're continually ignoring them, or you're pushing that off, saying, that's not that big of a deal, oh, he'll get over it, he gets over it every time. You do that enough times, eventually they're gonna feel so ignored, so not wanted, and so not needed, that they're gonna leave. They're gonna leave, or they're gonna cheat, or they're gonna find that attention they need somewhere else. So you can't let the ignoring it get too far. I know sometimes we all get busy and you listen, but you don't really listen. Like husband and wives, we all do that. We hear, but we don't really hear. But when it comes to the big things, you really need to make sure you're paying attention to your partner, and whether that's them telling you, or you can read their body language. If you know somebody well enough, you can tell when they're just not happy, just not vibing with you, and you need to be willing to ask the question of, are you okay? Are we okay? And I know nobody likes those hard questions, because I don't either, because then I feel like it's going to be my fault, whatever the problem is. But I also love my husband and love our relationship, so I need to be willing to ask that hard question. And we had rough times where it felt like we were always fighting or always arguing about something. Luckily enough, now that we worked hard on it, we don't get to those points. We still have those conversations, but it doesn't get fiery or anything like that. We really work through it. But I know that there have been times when both of us has felt this way, and it doesn't feel good. And I think that leads into a lot of these other issues that you have when you don't feel that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, even the bad thing about that is it can be so simple, because your partner's needs could be the littlest thing, and so simple for you to do that it's not a big deal. Like it could be as simple as your partner's not feeling love because you haven't just sat down on the couch and just sat with them and talked with them, or put your arm around them or whatever, for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. It could be something so simple that when you find out what it is, you kind of feel dumb, because it's like, wow, I haven't been doing that. And this is so simple. And that's the one thing that they needed, just to feel loved, or have them decompress, or have them feel relaxed, or whatever it is, just that moment that they feel safe or they feel loved or whatever. I mean, it could be the simplest thing. I mean, it could be all the way up to, hey, like you said, we haven't went out on a date for 2.5 months because of, I don't know, life got in the way. Let's make time for it. But I mean, a lot of times it could be so small that you're going to feel dumb that, man, I can't believe I wasn't doing that. And if you don't say something, maybe that person just it's not clicking with them, and they don't understand it. They don't understand that they haven't been doing it, which it's so easy to fix. So, I mean, yeah, you gotta pay attention. And if you're not catching on, then, your spouse can't be afraid to say something, or we got to sit down and talk. Like, how come you stop doing this? I mean, you always used to do this, and maybe there's a reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something you got to talk about. Maybe it's because something you're doing is why they stopped doing whatever it was. I mean, you never know what the situation is, but unless you sit down and have a conversation, like, how do you fix it? It's just up in the air and you're wondering. And then, like you said, you start to grow apart, so, and you don't want them going out trying to find that need somewhere else, or getting attention from someone else. And it could be as little as just, like you said, showing them some attention. I mean, that's pretty simple, and that could be all it is. And, that's not super tough to do.
No, and I think everything that we've talked about so far, they start so small. Everything is so simple. It's just that a lot of us just don't catch it. We get so involved in ourselves, in our own lives, and yes, our spouses are a part of it, but we kind of get very selfish in our own wants and our own needs that it overshadows the person that you're with. And so it's just a lot of being self-aware, a lot of getting out of your own head and opening up your vision and seeing what's actually going on, because they can compound to cause all of these issues. Because the last one that we're on is don't forget why you chose each other. Don't forget your why in this relationship. Same thing as, don't ever stop dating. Do those things when you first started. Sometimes you have to sit back and go back and remember what first attracted me to my spouse. What did I love about him when we first met? What was the first thing I noticed about him? Sometimes it's like you have to reset your mind and say, this is what I loved, and remind yourself, and then you see it in him. But I think we allow a lot of our disdain and our anger and our super nitpicky crap after you've been married for so long, that builds up and kind of overshadows the core of the person that you love. You're allowing all this other dark stuff to cover up all the good. And sometimes you got to just wipe away all those ashes, get rid of it, look back at what you have, and know that you still have it. You just have to focus on it. I think that a lot of us just don't focus on those things. We just see what's right in front of us. And yep, today he irritated me. So, this marriage is over. It's like, let's stop being so dramatic about this. Let's sit back and say, yeah, he pissed me off today, but guess what? He's going to do that for the rest of my life. That's just, we're going to irritate each other. When you're with someone 24/7 and you're going to be married 30, 50, 60 years. Yeah, you're going to irritate each other, but oh well. Move on. Like, it's life, guys. Your coworker's going to irritate you. Your family's going to irritate you. You have to really just basically tell yourself to shut up and remember and look at all the good things they did for you that day, or look at everything they did for you that month. And then it really kind of just resets you, and it makes you realize that maybe I was just having a bad day and it just pissed me off. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, if you sit back, like you said, and start to think about what maybe attracted you to that person to begin with. I mean, there's always what happens if you start thinking about it and you just realize the things that they do now, or the things that they've grown into that attract you now. I mean, because there could be things that they do now, or that they've, grown as a person, that you like about them now that they didn't have when you were dating. So there's a lot of those, because there's a lot of things that say, like, that how you were when we were first married, obviously you're not that way anymore. You've changed into a different person, not 100% different person, but your personalities change a little bit. Your likes change, your mental state changes because you work on it, and that all along should be, in your partner's eyes, making you a better person. So all the way through our 17 years, like, we should be able to say and find things that, okay, I like this is what you do, and I like you how you do this, and I like how you do this, and you've grown as a person physically. So there's more things that maybe attract you to you now if you just pay attention to it than maybe when you were first married. Or maybe you realize that, hey, I really like this when we were first dating and married, and you stop doing it. Why? Maybe you need to start doing that again, and it helps the problem.
The main thing is, guys, you need to take a minute to actually look at your marriage or your relationship and look at the small things. Look at the small things that you can do for each other. And really, let's just wipe away that 7-year itch. I think the itch can be anytime.
Well, I think we need to get to the perception that stop letting society dictate
Yes.
how we run our relationship, and stop letting society say, oh, there's a 7-year itch, so that in the back of your mind, you're waiting for that 7-year itch to see, do I have a problem or do I not have a problem? And then if I have a problem, you can be like, oh, yep, it was that 7-year itch, and blame it on something instead of just fixing the problem. Like, we let those old wives' tales and these way society does things dictate how we are in our own home, instead of just having a healthy relationship. Stop letting that into your home, letting that stagnant feeling there, and knowing that, oh, well, another year and we're going to have a 7-year itch, or another year just waiting for a problem. Then you pick a problem out. Then you let it fester, and then you let it get bigger and bigger and bigger, instead of just, if you never even thought about the 7-year itch, you probably wouldn't even have a problem. It's just you're waiting for something to happen because somebody told you at a certain point or time frame Everybody does. Everybody gets stabbed. Well, yeah, it's going to happen probably at 2 years. It may happen at 3. It may happen at 7. It may happen again at 15 years. But you got to learn to move on and grow as a couple because you're always going to have problems. Like we have problems, but we work through them. I mean, your relationship's never going to be 100% perfect. It's just not that way.
Yeah, and don't let that itch because you're gonna get it. And I think the itch is just when your problems get compounded, and then you look at it and it just seems so overwhelming to solve. But I think when that comes, let's say you get that itch, well, how about instead of just dropping everything and leaving and saying, well, we just can't work it, let's try to figure it out. Because, like Landon said, we've gone through a couple of these itches, but guess what? We've worked through it. We don't want to get to that point where it feels like it's such a big problem. Let's work on this every day. Let's do these small things so you don't get to that
But
point.
that's the problem. Is society's norm is everybody just get divorced.
Yeah.
Get married for 2 years. Oh, it didn't work. Get divorced. Get married for this long. Get divorced. Like, well, you could grow up a little bit. You're an adult now. You're in a relationship. Work on it. And I'm not saying every time you work on it, it's going to work. There's some relationships that just aren't going to work and it's going to end that way. But people end it before they actually work on it because they're mad about whatever situation or, irritated about this. Like, actually work on it before you make the decision and say you actually made a valiant try at making your relationship work.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with everything he just said, that guys, marriage is hard. I don't care what anybody says. It's hard, but it's worth it. 100% it's worth it. It's worth having that person there with you through life who knows everything about you, who is your support system, who is your best friend. Why wouldn't you want to work to keep that person instead of continually trying to rebuild that every 7 years? Because guess what? That one didn't work, and let's jump on to the next one. Seems like a lot more work to end one, find one, rebuild, do it. And I don't want to do that. I'm just going to work on the one that I chose and that I know is good for me, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to stay married. And we have. So guys, we hope some of this helps you. Please, if you start getting that itch, no matter when, go through these top 7 things of what not to do, and maybe see if you can help yourself out. We appreciate you being here, and we will see you next time.